James was a simple farmer, living on the edge of a small town with his wife Maria and their two children. Their life was filled with the hard but rewarding tasks of farming, always praying for a good harvest to pay the bills and put food on the table. One morning, while tending to his small flock of geese, James stumbled upon something extraordinary. Among his usual flock, there was a new goose, one with shimmering feathers that seemed to glow in the morning light. Curiosity piqued, James approached the goose cautiously. To his astonishment, beneath the goose was not an ordinary egg, but one that gleamed with the unmistakable sheen of gold. At first, James thought his eyes were deceiving him. He rubbed his eyes and looked again, and there it was, a golden egg, real and heavy in his hands. The joy that coursed through him was indescribable. This was the answer to all his financial worries. As the days passed, the miraculous goose continued to lay one golden egg each day. James and his family were ecstatic. They could pay off their debts, repair their old farmhouse, and even buy better food and clothes. The children's eyes sparkled with delight at each new purchase, and Maria's face, which had been lined with worry, now wore a smile more often. Life seemed brighter with each golden egg. With each golden egg, the family's standard of living improved. They replaced their old broken furniture, and the children now attended a better school. Neighbors started to notice the sudden change in the family's fortunes. Whispers and rumors spread through the town, mixing envy with curiosity. James, initially modest about his newfound wealth, began to change. The sparkle of gold started to reflect in his eyes, and his thoughts were consumed by how much more he could gain. Maria watched with concern as James's behavior transformed. He spent hours staring at the golden eggs, calculating and imagining. The warmth in his voice, once reserved for his family and his simple joys, was now replaced by an impatient tone, often directed towards the miraculous goose. Maria tried to remind him of their prior contentment with their humble life, but her words seemed to reach deaf ears. James's sleep became restless. Nightmares about losing the goose haunted him, and he would wake up in cold sweats. By day, he guarded the goose relentlessly, fearing theft or harm. The simple farm life had turned into a fortress of anxiety and mistrust, isolating the family. The children missed their playful, caring father, and Maria mourned the gentle husband she once knew. One fateful evening, driven by a relentless greed and a haunting fear of losing his golden source, James made a decision that would change their lives forever. He thought that if the goose could lay one golden egg a day, it must have many more inside it. If he could get all the eggs at once, they would never have to worry about money again. With a heavy heart, driven by his blinding greed, he decided to cut open the goose and retrieve all the golden eggs. Maria pleaded with James, warning him of the consequences of his greed. She reminded him of the golden rule of their life, patience and hard work. But the lure of instant wealth was too strong. That night, with a trembling hand, James carried out his plan. The house was silent except for the muffled cries of the goose and the tearful pleas of Maria. The outcome was as tragic as it was inevitable. There were no golden eggs inside the goose. All that was left was the lifeless body of the miraculous creature that had once brought them hope. James fell to his knees. The golden eggs scattered around him now seemed like mocking emblems of his folly. The silence that followed was heavy, filled with the weight of irreversible loss. The next morning, the sun rose on a grieving family. The children looked at their father, searching for the kind, loving man he once was, but found him hollow, eyes red from remorse. Maria tried to hold the family together, but the joy that once brightened their home was gone, replaced by a suffocating heaviness. James's regret was profound, but the goose was gone, and with it, the golden opportunity they had been granted. The town's whispers turned into outright scorn. The family, once the subject of envy, now faced pity and disdain. James tried to return to his farming, but the fields seemed barren to his eyes, a reflection of his hollowed heart. The golden eggs, though still plentiful, were now a bitter reminder of what he had lost. They could buy back neither the goose nor the peace and simplicity of their previous life. In the following days, James and his family learned to adapt to their new reality. The lessons were harsh but clear. No amount of gold could replace the contentment of a peaceful life, nor could it buy back trust and love once broken by greed. They slowly started rebuilding their bond, focusing on genuine, simple joys rather than the false promise of boundless wealth. The tale of James and the miraculous goose spread far beyond the town, becoming a cautionary story about the dangers of greed. It reminded everyone who heard it that wealth, when chased with a reckless desire, could lead to profound loss. The family, though forever changed, found a new rhythm to their life, one that cherished each moment and held material wealth as secondary. James, reflecting on his actions, often shared his story with others as a warning. He spoke of how the golden eggs had clouded his judgment, driving him to a decision that cost him dearly. He advised others to value what they have, and not to risk everything for the promise of more. Life, he learned, was not about how much one could accumulate, but about the happiness found in simple, honest living. The moral of this modern fable resonates with timeless truth. Greed can blind the best of us, leading to choices that may offer short-term gains but result in long-term regrets. It teaches that true wealth lies not in the abundance of possessions, but in the richness of a contented heart. As James and his family learned, sometimes the hardest lessons are the ones that ultimately guide us back to what truly matters.